The heart monitor was the only thing breaking the silence. Beep, 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 until the screaming started. We think we know the people we marry. We think we know who our friends are. But Erica Vance was about to learn that the man holding her hand and the best friend smiling at her bedside were actually plotting her murder. What happens when the person sworn to protect you becomes your executioner? And what happens when the only man powerful enough to stop them is the father you haven't spoken to in 5 years? This is the story of the betrayal that almost killed Erica, and the revenge that brought an empire to its knees. The rain battered against the reinforced glass of the VIP suite at St. Jude's Medical Center in Seattle. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of expensive lilies and the underlying, sharp tang of antiseptic. Erica Vance lay still, her pale skin almost blending into the pristine white sheets. At 28, Erica was the heiress to the Vance shipping fortune, a woman who seemingly had everything: beauty, wealth, and a husband, Marcus Thorne, who was the envy of every socialite in the Pacific Northwest. But right now, she felt less like an heiress and more like a prisoner. Her pregnancy had been difficult from the start. Preeclampsia, they called it. High blood pressure, severe swelling, and a constant, terrifying fatigue that made her feel as though her limbs were made of lead. She was 7 months along, and Dr. Holloway, Marcus's personal physician, had confined her to strict bed rest in the hospital for the last 2 weeks. "Here, drink this, Elle." Marcus's voice was smooth, like velvet wrapped around a stone. He stood over her, holding a glass of water and a small yellow pill. He was handsome, undeniably so, with his sharp jawline and perfectly coiffed dark hair. But recently, Erica had noticed a coldness in his blue eyes that hadn't been there before. Or perhaps it had always been there, and she had just been too blinded by love to see it. "I don't want any more sedatives, Marcus," Erica whispered, her voice raspy. "I need to keep a clear head. I want to call my father." Marcus's expression tightened, just for a fraction of a second, before smoothing back into a mask of concern. He set the glass down on the bedside table with a little too much force. "Erica, darling, we've talked about this. Your blood pressure is through the roof. Arthur, your father upsets you. Every time you speak to him, you end up in tears. Dr. Holloway said stress could be fatal for the baby right now. Do you want to hurt our son?" The guilt trip. It was his favorite weapon. I feel isolated, Marcus. You have my phone. You won't let the nurses speak to me. I feel like I'm in a box." "I am protecting you," he snapped, his voice dropping an octave. He leaned in close, his hand brushing a stray hair from her forehead. His touch didn't feel comforting. It felt possessive. "You're not well, Erica. You're hallucinating again. Remember yesterday? You thought the nurse was stealing your jewelry. You're paranoid." Erica closed her eyes. Had she thought that? The days were bleeding together. The pills made her foggy, disjointed. Maybe he was right. Marcus had taken over the Vance Company operations while she was incapacitated, bearing the burden, as he called it. Everyone said he was the perfect husband. The door clicked open, and the rhythm of high heels clicked across the linoleum floor. "Knock, knock. How's the Sleeping Beauty?" Jessica Cole breezed into the room, bringing a gust of cold air and heavy perfume with her, Erica's best friend since college. Jessica was everything Erica currently wasn't: vibrant, glowing, and dressed in a tailored red power suit that screamed confidence. "Jess," Erica managed a weak smile, "I didn't know you were coming." "Marcus called me," Jessica said, dropping her designer bag on the sofa and moving to the other side of the bed. She placed a manicured hand on Erica's arm. He said you were having a bad day. Delirious again?" Erica pulled her arm away slightly. "I'm not delirious." Jessica exchanged a look with Marcus. It was a quick, fleeting glance, but Erica saw it. It wasn't a look of shared concern. It was a look of shared knowledge, a smirk masked as sympathy. "Oh, sweetie," Jessica cooed. "Of course you aren't. But you look exhausted, doesn't she, Marcus?" "She refuses to take her medication," Marcus sighed, playing the role of the weary saint. "She keeps asking for Arthur." Jessica laughed, a harsh sound. "Your father? The man who didn't even come to your wedding. Erica, honey, let it go. You have us. We're your family now." Erica looked between them. They were standing on opposite sides of her bed, looming over her like vultures circling a dying animal. A sudden, chilling clarity cut through the haze of her medication. Why was Jessica wearing that diamond tennis bracelet? Erica blinked, focusing her eyes. On Jessica's left wrist sat a distinctive bracelet, platinum, with a unique clasp shaped like a rose. It was a custom piece. Erica's custom piece. It had gone missing from her jewelry box 3 weeks ago. Marcus had told her she must have misplaced it in her pregnancy brain fog. "Jess?" Erica asked, her heart hammering against her ribs. Is that my bracelet?" Jessica froze. She quickly pulled her sleeve down. "This? Don't be silly, Elle. Marcus bought this for me, for my birthday last year. It's a knockoff. You know I can't afford real Vance diamonds." "It has the rose clasp," Erica insisted, pushing herself up on her elbows. "Marcus, that's the one I lost." Marcus's face darkened. The mask of the loving husband slipped entirely. He didn't look concerned anymore. He looked annoyed. "Erica, stop it," Marcus growled. "You're accusing your best friend of theft now? This is exactly what Dr. Halloway was talking about. Paranoia, hysteria." "I want to see the clasp," Erica demanded, adrenaline momentarily overcoming the sedatives. "Show me the clasp, Jessica." "She's having an episode," Jessica said, coldly to Marcus, stepping back. "She's going to hurt herself." "I need to sedate her," Marcus said. He didn't say call the nurse. He said "No!" Erica screamed, but her voice was weak. "Get out, both of you! Nurse! Nurse!" Marcus moved fast. He grabbed the remote for the hospital bed and slammed his finger on the button to lower it flat, knocking the wind out of Erica. He loomed over her, his hands pinning her shoulders to the mattress. "Shut up," he hissed, his face inches from hers. "You are going to shut your mouth, Erica, or I will shut it for you." For the first time, Erica saw the monster beneath the skin, and she realized, with a terrifying jolt, that she wasn't in a hospital room to get better. She was here to die. The sedation Marcus had forced on her, a pill dissolved into water he had pinched her nose to make her swallow, eventually wore off, but Erica feigned sleep. It was currently 3:00 a.m. The hospital wing was quiet, save for the hum of the HVAC system. She kept her breathing shallow and rhythmic, her eyes closed, but her ears were straining against the silence. She knew they were still there. Marcus and Jessica were sitting on the leather sofa in the corner of the suite. They thought she was unconscious. They had stopped whispering. "How much longer? Mark?" Jessica's voice was impatient. "I'm tired of playing the supportive friend. She's looking at me like she knows. Ideally, she should have kicked the bucket during the last seizure." "Keep your voice down," Marcus snapped, though he didn't sound worried. "Halloway says her kidneys are failing. The medication cocktail he's giving her is accelerating the preeclampsia. It's only a matter of days. Once the organ failure sets in, it'll look like a tragic complication. The grieving widower inherits the Vance empire." "It's clean." Erica's blood ran cold. It wasn't just neglect. It was poisoning. Dr. Halloway was in on it. They were inducing her sickness. And the baby? Jessica asked. What if the brat survives? If the baby survives, I'm the sole guardian, Marcus replied, the sound of ice clinking in a glass following his words. I control the trust fund until the kid is 21. By then the money will be in offshore accounts in the Caymans, and you and I will be living in Tuscany. But honestly, with the amount of drugs Halloway is pumping into her, the kid probably won't make it either. 2 birds, 1 stone. A tear leaked from Erica's eye, sliding into her ear. She bit the inside of her cheek until she tasted copper to keep from screaming. My baby. They were going to kill her son, just to get to her father's money. What about the old man? Jessica asked. Arthur Vance isn't stupid. If his daughter dies, he's going to launch an investigation. He has connections with the FBI, Marcus. Arthur thinks Erica hates him, Marcus scoffed. I've been intercepting his emails for months. I've been replying as Erica, telling him to stay away, that he's toxic, that she never wants to see him again. He's heartbroken and humiliated. He won't come. By the time he finds out she's dead, she'll be cremated. Erica's heart shattered. For 5 years, she thought her father had abandoned her. She thought he was too busy with his conglomerate to care about her life. But Marcus had been the wall between them. He had isolated her completely. I need you to sign the power of attorney papers tomorrow, Marcus continued. I'm going to guide her hand while she's groggy. Once I have full control over her medical decisions, I can sign a DNR. Do not resuscitate. Then, we just wait for the next seizure. You're a genius, baby, Jessica purred. The sound of a kiss followed. Erica felt a surge of rage, so powerful it almost blinded her. It burned through the sedative fog. She wasn't going to die here. She wasn't going to let these parasites take her son. She waited another hour until the rhythmic breathing from the sofa told her they had dozed off. Slowly, agonizingly, she moved her hand under the sheets. Her phone was gone. Marcus had taken it days ago. But she remembered something. Dr. Halloway usually left his tablet on the counter near the sink when he did his rounds. Had he left it? Erica turned her head. There, in the dim light of the medical equipment, a rectangular shape sat on the counter. It was a long shot. If she moved, the monitors might spike. If she made a noise, they would wake up. She unhooked the pulse oximeter from her finger. The monitor flatlined. Beep! Panic surged. She hadn't thought that through. On the sofa, Marcus stirred. What the hell? Erica shoved the clip back onto her finger, just as Marcus sat up. The beeping returned to a normal rhythm. Beep. Beep. Just a glitch, Marcus muttered, rubbing his face. He stood up and walked to the bathroom. This was her only chance. While the toilet flushed, Erica quietly slid her hand toward the bedside table drawer. It was empty. But underneath the drawer, she had taped a spare SIM card there months ago when she first suspected Marcus was reading her texts. She had forgotten about it until now. She didn't have a phone, but she had the room's landline. Marcus had cut the cord. She looked around desperately. The smart TV on the wall. It was connected to the hospital Wi-Fi. She waited for Marcus to return to the sofa and fall back asleep. It took 30 minutes. Slowly, she reached for the remote. She didn't turn the screen on. The light would wake them. Instead, she used the voice command button, holding it close to her lips, whispering so softly it was barely a breath. Assistant. Open browser. The TV remained dark, but the small LED at the bottom blinked. She had turned the brightness to 0 days ago because of her migraines. She couldn't see the screen, but she knew the layout. She navigated by memory to her private email. She couldn't type. She had to dictate. Email. Arthur Vance. Subject. Help. Body. Marcus killing me. St. Jude's. Room 402. Come now, Daddy, please. She pressed the center button. Send. She didn't know if it went through. She didn't know if he would even read it. Arthur Vance was a man who received thousands of emails a day, but it was the only lifeline she had. As dawn broke, the door opened. Dr. Holloway entered, looking disheveled. Marcus, the doctor whispered, we have a problem. The board is doing a surprise audit of the patient files this morning. If they see her toxicology report, we're all going to prison. Marcus shot up. What do you mean? I mean we need to accelerate the timeline, Holloway said, his face pale. She needs to have a cardiac event. Today. Now. Erica's eyes snapped open. She couldn't pretend anymore. Get away from me, she screamed, thrashing in the bed. Help! Someone help me! Marcus turned to her, his eyes dead and cold. Lock the door, Jess, he said, calm. Jessica walked over and clicked the deadbolt shut. She turned to Erica, a cruel smile playing on her lips. Time to say goodbye, bestie. Dr. Holloway moved with a terrifying clinical efficiency. He didn't look like a murderer. He looked like a man checking a chart. He opened a sterile packet, the crinkle of the plastic sounding like a gunshot in the silent room, and withdrew a large syringe. He uncapped a vial of clear liquid, potassium chloride. In high doses, it would stop her heart instantly. No autopsy would find it suspicious given her condition. They would just call it cardiac arrest, brought on by severe preeclampsia. It will be quick, Erica, Holloway said, his voice void of emotion. You won't feel a thing, just a warm sensation. And then, peace. You're insane, Erica gasped, backing herself against the headboard, clutching the sheets to her chest as if the thin cotton could protect her. You're a doctor. You took an oath. I have gambling debts, Mrs. Thorne, Holloway muttered, tapping the syringe to remove air bubbles. And your husband pays very, very well. Erica looked at Marcus. He wasn't looking at her. He was checking his watch, as if waiting for a boring meeting to end. Marcus, please, she begged, tears streaming down her face. Think about our son. Even if you hate me, don't kill him. Let them do a C-section. Take the baby, I don't care. Just let him live. Marcus finally looked at her. His eyes were empty. He's a complication, Erica. And quite frankly, I don't want a child that shares your DNA. I want a fresh start. He nodded to Jessica. Hold her. Jessica's face lit up with twisted glee. She dropped her purse and lunged forward. Erica tried to kick out, but her limbs were heavy from weeks of atrophy and sedation. Jessica grabbed her wrists, pinning them to the bed with surprising strength. Get off me, Erica screamed, trashing wildly. She managed to free her right hand and raked her nails across Jessica's cheek, drawing 3 bright red lines of blood. You bitch! Jessica shrieked, recoiling. She slapped Erica, hard. The sound cracked through the room. Erica's head snapped to the side, the metallic taste of blood filling her mouth. Grab her! Marcus roared, losing his cool. Jessica lunged again, this time putting her full body weight on top of Erica's legs. She grabbed Erica's hair, yanking her head back against the pillows. Do it now, Holloway! Stick her! Jessica yelled, ignoring the blood dripping from her own face. Holloway moved in, the needle gleaming under the fluorescent lights. Erica thrashed, bucking her hips, fighting with the primal ferocity of a mother protecting her unborn child. She kicked the tray table, sending metal instruments clattering to the floor. She's moving too much, Holloway panicked, hovering the needle over her IV port. I'm going to miss the vein. Hold her still, Marcus shouted. I'm trying. Jessica grunted, struggling to keep Erica's arms pinned. Marcus growled, a low, animalistic sound. He stepped forward, his expensive Italian leather shoes squeaking on the linoleum. He didn't grab her arms. He didn't try to soothe her. In a moment of pure, unadulterated malice, Marcus Thorne lifted his leg and kicked his pregnant wife hard in the ribs. The air left Erica's lungs in a wheezing gasp. The pain was blinding, white-hot, radiating through her chest and down to her belly. She curled in on herself, unable to breathe, unable to scream. "There," Marcus spat, adjusting his suit jacket. "Now she's still. Do it!" Erica lay paralyzed by pain, watching through blurry tears as Holloway stepped closer. The needle moved toward the IV port in her arm. This was it. This was the end. She couldn't move. She couldn't fight. She closed her eyes and visualized her baby. "I'm sorry," she thought. "I'm so sorry." "Say good night, Erica," Jessica whispered in her ear, her breath hot and malicious. The needle tip touched the rubber stopper of the IV line. Boom! The heavy oak door to the hospital suite didn't just open, it exploded inward, fracturing around the lock. The noise was deafening. Wood splinters flew across the room. Holloway jumped, dropping the syringe. It clattered to the floor, rolling under the bed. Jessica screamed and scrambled off the bed, backing away into the corner. Marcus spun around, his face a mask of shock and rage. "Who the hell?" Standing in the doorway was a wall of men. At the front, leaning heavily on a silver-handled cane, but looking like a vengeful god, was Arthur Vance. He was 65, with a mane of silver hair and a beard that made him look like a lion. He wore a charcoal three-piece suit that cost more than the hospital wing. But it was his eyes, steel grey and burning with a cold, terrifying fire, that froze the room. Behind him stood 4 men who were clearly not hospital security. They were private contractors, ex-military, massive, silent, and armed. "Get away from my daughter," Arthur said. His voice wasn't loud. It was low, deep, and vibrated through the floorboards. It was the voice of a man who commanded fleets of ships and moved economies. "Arthur?" Marcus stammered, holding up his hands. His charm evaporated instantly, replaced by the cowardly sweat of a man caught red-handed. "Arthur, thank God you're here. She was having a seizure. We were trying to restrain her." Arthur didn't even look at Marcus. He limped into the room, his eyes locked on Erica. Erica was gasping for air, clutching her ribs where Marcus had kicked her. She looked broken, bruised, terrified. Arthur's heart broke into 1,000 pieces. He saw the red handprint on her cheek. He saw the terror in her eyes. And he saw the syringe on the floor. "Check the room," Arthur commanded his men. 2 of the guards moved instantly. One secured the door. The other moved toward Holloway, who was trembling so hard his knees knocked together. "Don't touch me," Holloway squeaked. "I'm a doctor." "You're a butcher," Arthur spat. He reached the bedside. The anger vanished from his face, replaced by a desperate tenderness. He dropped his cane and took Erica's hand. His large, calloused hand engulfed hers. "Ellie," he whispered, using the childhood nickname he hadn't spoken in years. "I'm here. Daddy's here." "Daddy," Erica choked out, a sob racking her body. The needle. Poison. Marcus kicked me. My baby. Help my baby." Arthur turned. The tenderness was gone. When he looked at Marcus, it was like looking into the face of death itself. "You kicked her?" Arthur asked. The question hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. "She's hallucinating," Marcus yelled, his voice cracking. "She's been delirious for weeks. Arthur, look at her. She's mentally unstable. Jessica and I have been here day and night, caring for her." "That's right," Jessica chimed in, stepping forward, trying to summon her usual manipulative charm. "Mr. Vance, surely you don't believe this. Erica has been attacking the nurses. We were just trying to keep her from hurting herself." Arthur looked at Jessica. He looked at the scratch marks on her face. Then he looked at the diamond bracelet on her wrist. "That's a nice bracelet," Arthur said quietly. "Custom rose clasp. I commissioned that for Erica's 25th birthday." Jessica froze, covering her wrist with her other hand. It's a replica." "I don't make replicas," Arthur said. He signaled to the head of his security team, a man named Kane. "Secure them. Nobody leaves." "You can't do this," Marcus shouted, puffing out his chest. "I am her husband. I have power of attorney. I have rights. Get your goons out of here or I'll call the police." "I already called them," Arthur said calmly. "The police commissioner is on his way. But until they get here, you belong to me." Arthur turned back to Erica. "Did they inject you?" "No," Erica whispered. "You stopped them. But the pills, for weeks, making me sick." Arthur looked at Holloway. "Kane, pick up that syringe, carefully. We'll need it for evidence." Holloway bolted. He tried to run for the bathroom, perhaps to flush something down the toilet, but Kane moved with a blur of speed. He tackled the doctor, slamming him into the wall. Holloway crumpled, wheezing. "Assault!" Marcus screamed. "I'm filming this!" He reached for his pocket, but another guard grabbed his arm, twisting it behind his back until Marcus yelped in pain. "Let go of me! Do you know who I am?" Marcus spat. Arthur slowly picked up his cane. He walked over to where Marcus was pinned against the window. He stood inches from his son-in-law's face. "I know exactly who you are, Marcus," Arthur said softly. "You're a failed venture capitalist who lost $4 million in crypto last year. You're a man who mortgaged his parents' house to pay off loan sharks in Macau. And you're a man who thought that because I stopped emailing my daughter, I stopped watching her." Marcus's face went white. You knew?" "I know everything," Arthur said. "I know about the offshore accounts you opened last month. I know about the one-way tickets to Florence you booked for you and Miss Cole. And I know you've been blocking my emails." Arthur poked Marcus hard in the chest with the silver handle of his cane. "But I respected Erica's wish for space. I stayed away because I thought she wanted it. But when I got an email saying, 'Daddy, help,' Arthur's voice shook with suppressed rage. "You woke up the devil, Marcus." Suddenly, Erica let out a sharp cry. She grabbed her stomach, her body tensing in an arc of pain. "My stomach," she gasped. "Something's wrong. It hurts. It hurts so much." The heart monitor began to beep erratically. Beep, 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 beep. Blood began to pool on the white sheets between her legs. The kick, Arthur realized, horror washing over him. Placental abruption. He detached the placenta. "Help her!" Arthur roared at his men. "Get a real doctor! Now!" "The hospital staff is locked out," Kane said. "We secured the floor." "Unlock it! Get the chief of surgery! Move!" Arthur bellowed. He turned back to Erica, whose face was turning grey. The loss of blood was immediate and catastrophic. "Daddy," she whispered, her eyes rolling back. "Save him, save the baby." "Stay with me, Ellie," Arthur pleaded, gripping her hand so hard his knuckles turned white. "Don't you dare leave me." "Not again." Marcus, realizing the gravity of the situation and the murder charge that was about to land on him, saw his opening while the guards were distracted by the medical emergency. He stomped hard on the guard's foot and shoved him aside. "Run, Jess!" Marcus yelled. He bolted for the door. Jessica followed, her heels clicking frantically. "Stop them!" Arthur shouted, but he refused to let go of Erica's hand. Kane drew a taser, but Marcus and Jessica were already through the shattered doorway, sprinting down the hallway of the VIP wing. Arthur looked at his dying daughter, then at the door. He had a choice: chase the monsters or save his child. "Get the doctors," Arthur commanded his men, his voice breaking. "Let the police hunt them." Save my daughter." As the room swarmed with nurses and doctors finally allowed in, Arthur Vance, the man who could buy countries, felt entirely helpless. He watched as they wheeled Erica's bed toward the emergency OR, the white sheets turning crimson red. The last thing he saw before the elevator doors closed was Erica's hand falling limp off the side of the gurney. The doors to the operating room swung shut, cutting Arthur Vance off from his daughter. The in-use light flickered on, an ominous, glowing red eye in the dimly lit corridor. Arthur stood there, leaning heavily on his cane, his chest heaving. The adrenaline that had allowed him to storm the room was fading, replaced by a cold, trembling dread. He looked down at his hand. It was stained with Erica's blood. "Sir," Kane, his head of security, approached cautiously. "The police have secured the perimeter. Holloway is in custody in the back of a cruiser. But Thorne and the woman, they made it to the parking garage before we could lock down the elevators. They're gone." Arthur didn't turn. He stared at the red light. "They aren't gone, Kane. They're just delaying the inevitable. I want their faces on every news channel, every billboard, and every social media feed in the state of Washington within the hour. Offer a reward. $5 million for information leading to their capture. Alive." Kane's eyes widened slightly. $5 million was a fortune, but he nodded. "Understood. And the accounts?" "Freeze them," Arthur said, his voice dropping to a granite whisper. "Freeze everything. Marcus's personal accounts, the joint accounts, the credit cards, the offshore shells he thinks I don't know about. Turn off his phone service. Cancel his passport. Make him a ghost." Inside the OR, the atmosphere was chaotic, controlled panic. Dr. Sarah Evans, the chief of surgery, who had been urgently summoned from her break room, barked orders over the shrill alarm of the monitors. "BP is 60/40 and dropping. We're losing her." Erica's body lay splayed on the table, unrecognizable under the sterile drapes. The internal bleeding was massive. The kick Marcus had delivered had not only caused a placental abruption, tearing the placenta from the uterine wall, but had likely ruptured her spleen as well. "Get the baby out now," Dr. Evans yelled. "We have maybe 2 minutes before fetal hypoxia causes permanent brain damage." The scalpel moved. There was no time for finesse. This was a splash and slash emergency C-section. "Uterus is open." Dr. Evans reached in. Her hands, gloved and slick with blood, grasped the small, fragile form inside. She pulled. "Time of birth, 10:42 a.m., a nurse called out. But there was no cry. The baby, a boy, was limp. His skin was a terrifying shade of blue-gray. "He's not breathing!" the pediatric nurse gasped, snatching the infant and rushing him to the warmer. "Code Blue, NICU team to OR1. Focus on the mother," Evans shouted, though her heart sank. "She's hemorrhaging. I can't stop the bleeding. We need more O-negative. Squeeze the bags." Erica's heart monitor changed its tone. The frantic beeping slowed, then became erratic. "Beep. Beep. Beep." "She's coding," the anesthesiologist said. "V-fib. Paddles," Evans commanded. "Charge to 200. Thump." Erica's body jerked on the table. "Still V-fib. Charge to 300. Thump." "Come on, Erica," Evans whispered, sweat dripping down her forehead. "Don't you die on me. Not today." Rain lashed against the windshield of the stolen Honda Civic. Marcus was driving like a maniac, weaving through the Seattle traffic, running red lights. Jessica sat in the passenger seat, shivering, her expensive red suit ruined by the rain and sweat. "Slow down," she screamed, gripping the dashboard. "You're going to get us killed." "Shut up," Marcus roared, hitting the steering wheel. "We need distance. We need to get to the airfield. My friend in Tacoma has a Cessna. If we can get to Vancouver, we can fly to non-extradition." You kicked her, Marcus! Jessica turned on him, her panic turning into venom. You actually kicked her. The plan was poison. Subtle, remember? Tragic medical complication. Now we have assault, attempted murder, maybe actual murder if she dies. I panicked, Marcus shouted back. She was fighting back, and that old man. How did he know? How did he get in? He's Arthur Vance, Jessica said bitterly. He owns half the city. God, we are so screwed. Marcus fumbled for his wallet. It's fine. I have the Cayman accounts. There's $3 million in there. We just need to get across the border. He pulled out his phone to check the balance, steering with his knees. No service, he cursed. Damn signal. Try mine, Jessica said, pulling out her iPhone. SOS only. Arthur? Marcus realized, the blood draining from his face. He shot us down. He swerved into a gas station parking lot, screeching to a halt. Get out! Use the ATM! We need cash! Now! Jessica scrambled out, running through the rain to the standalone ATM. She jammed her debit card in. Processing. Transaction denied. Contact bank. She tried her credit card. Card declined. She tried Marcus's platinum card. Card reported stolen. Retained by machine. The machine whirred and didn't give the card back. Jessica stared at the screen, rain plastering her hair to her face. She looked back at the car. Marcus was hyperventilating, gripping the wheel. They had no money, no phones, no passports. And the most powerful man in the Pacific Northwest was hunting them. Jessica looked at the wet pavement. A dark thought formed in her mind. I didn't kick her. Marcus did. I was just a witness. Maybe I can cut a deal. She didn't run back to the car. She started backing away toward the convenience store. Marcus saw her. He honked the horn. Jess, what are you doing? Get in! She shook her head. I'm not going down for you, Marcus. Marcus's eyes bulged. He threw the car into drive and gunned it toward her. Jessica shrieked and dove behind a dumpster just as the Honda smashed into the metal siding, scraping sparks. Get in the car, Jessica, Marcus screamed out the window, looking completely unhinged. You're in this as deep as I am. You held her down. You poisoned her IVs. You think Arthur Vance cares about the difference? Get in! She hesitated. He was right. Arthur wouldn't care. She was the mistress, the betrayer. Sobbing, she climbed into the passenger seat of the battered car. Don't you ever try to leave me, Marcus hissed, peeling out of the lot. We're bound together now, until death. The silence in the OR was broken by a sound, a weak, sputtering cough. Then, a cry. Thin, reedy, like a kitten, but undeniable. He's breathing, the nurse cried out, tears in her eyes. Heart rate stabilizing. He's fighting. Dr. Evans didn't look up. She was deep in Erica's abdomen, clamping the splenic artery. Good. Now let's make sure his mother is there to hear it. Sinus rhythm returned, the anesthesiologist announced. She's back. BP is stabilizing. 90/60. Dr. Evans let out a breath she felt she had been holding for an hour. Okay, let's close her up. And someone tell the father. 72 hours. That was how long Erica Vance had been in the medically induced coma. Arthur had not left the room. He had paid for a private suite, doubling the security detail. He slept in the uncomfortable hospital chair, his cane resting against his knee, watching the rise and fall of her chest. The swelling in her face had gone down. She looked like his little girl again, except for the tubes and the monitors. The baby, whom the nurses had temporarily named Baby Boy Vance, was in the NICU. He was small, 3 pounds, 4 ounces, but feisty. He had Arthur's chin. There was a soft knock on the door. Detective Miller entered, holding a thick manila folder. He looked exhausted. Mr. Vance, Miller said quietly. We have an update. Arthur stood up stiffly, wincing as his joints popped. "Do you have them?" "Not yet," Miller admitted. "But we found the car, a stolen Honda, ditched in a ravine near Bellingham. They're on foot, likely trying to cross into Canada through the woods. We have dogs tracking them. It's only a matter of time." "And Halloway?" "Singing like a canary," Miller said with a grim satisfaction. "He gave us everything. The text messages from Marcus ordering the potassium chloride, the fake medical charts. He even admitted to falsifying her blood pressure readings to justify the bed rest. He's trying to plead down from conspiracy to commit murder to manslaughter, but the DA isn't biting." Arthur nodded. "Good. Burn him." "There's something else," Miller said, hesitating. He pulled a Ziploc bag out of the folder. Inside was a piece of jewelry, a platinum bracelet with a rose clasp. "We found this in the stolen car," Miller said. "It looks like they fought. The latch is broken." Arthur took the bag. He stared at the bracelet he had given Erica, a symbol of love that had been stolen by a woman pretending to be her friend. "Keep it for evidence," Arthur said, handing it back. "When Erica wakes up, I want her to know it was recovered." "Mr. Vance?" A weak, raspy voice came from the bed. Arthur spun around. Erica's eyes were open. They were glassy and unfocused, but she was looking at him. "Daddy." Arthur dropped his cane. He rushed to the bedside, falling to his knees. He took her hand, pressing it to his cheek, weeping openly. "I'm here, Ellie. I'm here." "The baby," she whispered, her voice barely audible around the breathing tube that had just been removed. "Did he?" "He's alive," Arthur sobbed, laughing through his tears. "He's beautiful, Erica. He's fighting. He's in the NICU, but the doctors say he's going to be fine. You have a son." Erica closed her eyes, a tear sliding down her temple. "Marcus. Jessica." "Gone," Arthur said, his voice hardening. "They can't hurt you anymore. You're safe. I promise you, on my life, you are safe." It was cold, a bone-deep, damp cold that only the Pacific Northwest could produce. Marcus and Jessica had been walking for 12 hours. They had abandoned the car when they saw a police cruiser idling near the highway on-ramp. They had entered the dense forest, hoping to bypass the official border crossing. They were lost. Jessica's heels had broken miles ago. She was walking barefoot in the mud, her feet bleeding and numb. Her designer suit was shredded by thorns. She looked nothing like the socialite who had sneered at Erica in the hospital bed. She looked like a wild animal. Marcus wasn't faring much better. He had lost his jacket in a slide down a ravine. He was shivering violently, his teeth chattering. "We have to stop," Jessica whimpered, collapsing against a mossy tree trunk. I can't take another step." "Get up!" Marcus rasped. He grabbed her arm, but his grip was weak. "If we stop, we freeze, or they find us." "Let them find us!" Jessica screamed, pulling away. "I'd rather go to jail than die in these woods. This is your fault, all of it." "My fault?" Marcus laughed, a manic, high-pitched sound. "You're the one who wanted the lifestyle, Jess." "Oh, Marcus, when are you going to leave her? Oh, Marcus, I want a villa in Tuscany." "You pushed me. I didn't tell you to kill your own child." Marcus struck her. It was a clumsy, weak slap, but it knocked the exhausted woman to the ground. "You're nothing without me," Marcus spat. "I made you." Jessica looked up at him from the mud. The fear in her eyes was gone, replaced by a cold, hard resolve. She saw a large, jagged rock next to her hand. "You're right, Marcus," she whispered. "I am nothing without you, but you're a dead weight." Marcus turned away, squinting into the darkness. "I think I see lights. Maybe a cabin. Come on." He didn't see Jessica stand up. He didn't see her lift the rock. Crack. Marcus crumpled forward, hitting the mud face first. Jessica stood over him, breathing hard. She hadn't killed him. He was groaning. But she had bought herself a head start. And more importantly, she had a bargaining chip. She checked his pockets. She found the only thing of value left, a USB drive he kept on his keychain. He had told her once it contained the passcodes to the encrypted accounts. She took it. "Sorry, baby," she whispered, her voice devoid of emotion. "Survivor takes all." She turned and began to limp toward the distant lights, leaving Marcus face down in the dirt. Erica was sitting up. She was weak, but the color was returning to her cheeks. A nurse was helping her hold a small bundle wrapped in a blue blanket. Arthur sat in the chair, watching them. It was the first time in 5 years he felt peace. "He needs a name," Erica said softly, looking down at the tiny, sleeping face. Marcus wanted to name him. Well, it doesn't matter what he wanted, she corrected herself. She looked at her father. "I want to name him Arthur." Arthur Vance, the iron-willed tycoon, choked up. No, don't name him after an old grump like me. Name him something strong, something new." Erica smiled. "Leo, for Grandpa. Leo Vance." "Leo," Arthur tested the name. "Leo Vance, the future CEO." The door opened. Detective Miller stepped in again. He looked different this time, more urgent. "Mr. Vance," he said. "We got a 911 call from a farmhouse near the border. A woman surrendered. Jessica Cole." Erica stiffened, clutching the baby tighter. "She's in custody," Miller continued. "She's claiming she was a hostage. Says Marcus forced her to run. She's trying to cut a deal." "And Marcus?" Arthur asked. "She led us to him," Miller said. "He was unconscious in the woods, hypothermia and head trauma. He's being airlifted to Harborview Medical Center under police guard." Arthur stood up. He adjusted his suit jacket. "Is he going to live?" Arthur asked. "Likely," Miller said. "He's tough." Arthur looked at Erica. "I need to go handle something, sweetie. I'll be back soon." "Where are you going, Dad?" Erica asked. Arthur walked to the door, his cane tapping rhythmically on the floor. He paused and looked back, a dark, dangerous promise in his eyes. "I'm going to ensure that even if he lives," Arthur said, "he wishes he hadn't." 6 months later, the King County Superior Court was packed. The press had dubbed it the Vance Conspiracy Trial, and it was the most talked about case in the Pacific Northwest. Erica sat in the front row, looking nothing like the fragile victim she had been in the hospital. She wore a tailored navy dress, her hair pulled back in a sleek bun. She held her head high. Next to her sat Arthur Vance, looking like a stone sentinel. On the defense side, Marcus Thorne looked like a shadow of his former self. His recovery from the hypothermia and head trauma in the woods had been slow. He sat in a wheelchair, handcuffed to the armrest, his once handsome face gaunt and pale. He wore a cheap orange jumpsuit, a stark contrast to the Italian suits he used to parade in. Jessica Cole sat at a separate table. She had tried to turn state's evidence, offering to testify against Marcus in exchange for a lighter sentence. But the district attorney, fueled by the mountain of evidence Arthur's private investigators had unearthed, had rejected the deal. She was being tried as a co-conspirator. She looked aged, her roots showing, her eyes darting nervously around the room. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named D.A. Reynolds, stood up. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," Reynolds began, pacing slowly. "Greed is a common motive. But what you have seen over the last 3 weeks isn't just greed. It is a level of malice that chills the blood." She pointed a finger at Marcus. This man didn't just want his wife's money. He wanted to erase her. He gaslit her, isolated her from her father, and systematically poisoned her while she carried his child. And when that wasn't fast enough, he physically assaulted her in a hospital bed. Reynolds turned to the jury. You heard the testimony of Dr. Halloway. You heard the recording of the 911 call. You saw the forensic accounting of the offshore trusts. There is no doubt here. There is only the question of how long we lock these monsters away to ensure they never hurt anyone again. Marcus's defense attorney tried to argue insanity. He claimed the financial pressure had caused a psychotic break. He claimed Marcus didn't know right from wrong in the heat of the moment. It was a weak defense, and it crumbled the moment Erica took the stand. When Erica was sworn in, the courtroom went silent. She looked directly at Marcus. For the first time in 6 months, he couldn't meet her eyes. He looked down at his lap. "Erica," the prosecutor asked gently, "can you tell the court what your husband said to you right before he kicked you?" Erica took a steadying breath. He said, "I don't want a child that shares your DNA. I want a fresh start." A gasp rippled through the gallery. The jury, 7 women and 5 men, looked at Marcus with undisguised disgust. "And how did that make you feel?" "It made me realize," Erica said, her voice strengthening, "that the man I loved never existed. He was just a costume worn by a predator." Jessica's lawyer tried to paint her as a victim of Marcus's manipulation. She was afraid of him. She ran because he forced her. But Arthur's team had provided the emails where Jessica joked about Erica kicking the bucket, the emails where she picked out villas in Tuscany using the inheritance money before Erica was even dead. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. "Will the defendants please rise?" Marcus struggled to stand, his chains rattling. Jessica stood, trembling. "On the count of attempted murder in the 1st degree, we find the defendant, Marcus Thorne, guilty. On the count of conspiracy to commit murder, guilty. On the count of assault of a pregnant woman, guilty." The guilties kept coming, hitting Marcus like physical blows. Embezzlement, fraud, identity theft. Then came Jessica. "On the count of conspiracy to commit murder, guilty." Jessica let out a sob, her legs buckling. A bailiff had to hold her up. The judge, a stern man with no patience for tears, looked over his glasses. "Marcus Thorne, your actions were reprehensible. You betrayed the sacred trust of marriage and fatherhood. I am sentencing you to 2 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 20 years for financial fraud." Marcus slumped. It was over. He would die in a concrete box. "Jessica Cole," the judge continued, "you betrayed your best friend for money. You are sentenced to 30 years in a federal penitentiary." As the bailiffs moved in to drag them away, Marcus looked back. He looked at Erica. "Erica!" he shouted, desperate. "I'm sorry, I loved you. Please don't let them take me." Erica stood up. She walked to the railing. She looked him in the eye, her face calm and completely devoid of pity. "You didn't love me, Marcus," she said, loud enough for the room to hear. "You loved my father's checkbook, and now you don't have either." She turned her back on him. "Goodbye, Marcus." Arthur put his arm around her shoulders, and together they walked out of the courtroom, leaving the screaming man behind. 3 months later, the Vance estate was bathed in sunlight. On the patio, a baby sat in a high chair, smashing a piece of avocado into his face. He had bright blue eyes and a shock of dark hair. "He's got an arm on him," Arthur said, chuckling as Leo threw a piece of toast onto the grass. "He's going to be a pitcher." "He's going to be a CEO," Erica laughed, wiping Leo's face. Erica looked healthy. She had taken over the charitable arm of Vance Shipping. She was working on a new initiative, legal aid for victims of domestic financial abuse. She was turning her nightmare into a lifeline for others. Arthur sipped his coffee. The cane was leaning against the table. He was using it less these days. Reconnecting with his daughter seemed to have taken 10 years off his age. "You know," Arthur said, looking out over the garden, "I spent my whole life building an empire, thinking that was my legacy. The ships, the buildings, the money." He reached out and let baby Leo grab his finger. The baby squeezed tight. "I was wrong," Arthur whispered. "This is the only legacy that matters." Erica placed her hand over her father's. "We're okay, Dad. We made it." "Yes," Arthur smiled, a genuine warm smile that reached his eyes. "We did. And if anyone ever tries to hurt you again—" "I know," Erica said, kissing his cheek. "You'll unleash the hounds." "Damn right," Arthur said. The wind blew through the trees, carrying the sound of the baby's laughter. The darkness of the hospital room, the rain and the betrayal felt like a lifetime ago. They had walked through the fire and come out the other side, scarred perhaps, but unbreakable. Erica picked up her son, holding him close. She was no longer the porcelain doll in room 402. She was a mother, a survivor, and a Vance, and she was finally, truly free. And so, the walls finally closed in on Marcus and Jessica, not in a hospital room, but in a cold, grey cell where they belong. They thought Erica was weak. They thought Arthur was absent. But they forgot the most important rule of nature. There is nothing more dangerous than a parent protecting their child. Marcus Thorne wanted a fresh start, and he got one, a life sentence starting from day one. Erica and little Leo are safe, proving that while betrayal leaves scars, it also builds armor. Wow, what a roller coaster. If this story had you on the edge of your seat, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow and lets me know you want more stories like this. Do you think the sentence was fair, or should they have gotten worse? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss a new story. We have a crazy revenge tale coming up next week that you won't want to miss. Thanks for listening, stay safe, and watch who you trust.